Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kendar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read and correct a chapter. If you want to listen to these live, they're every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And today we are doing chapter 17 of A Familiar Death. Trembor stared at his wolf as the car turned right. Marl? He called again. His wolf had been lost in thought for a good 2 minutes. Stop before the road. Marl, our room is in the other direction. Marlot barely nodded, leaving Trembor unsure he'd heard him. When his wolf growled under his breath, then swore, Trembor had a good idea where his thoughts were, and he could understand. He never thought parents could express that level of hate toward their child. He kept watching the road in case he had to force Marlot out case he had to force Marlot out. I know I mean out of his thoughts to bring Marlot back. But his wolf had enough presence of mind not to let his anger speed him to his destination. Why he was driving them into town eluded Trembor. With what had happened today, he'd expected them to get their things and head home. The fight with Marlot's parent had clearly been the last straw. In town, he parked in front of the council building. Was he going to tell the council in person they were leaving? Except the building looked closed. Marlot got out and without a word, and Trevor hurried after him. He looked around for trouble, but the two people walking didn't pay them any attention. It was dinner time, so I'm not making that one word. It was dinner time, so everyone else have been wow. Else would be home eating. Marlot walked past the main entrance without even looking at it. Was he going to the enforcer office then? There was nothing there he needed as far as he remembered. His wolf didn't go that far. He stopped at a door near the end of the council building. Trevor hadn't paid attention to before. Through the bay window, he saw a young tiger standing behind a counter, looking bored. The frosted window on the door was stenciled with clerk's office. Marlot was almost at the counter by the time Trevor entered the office. He glanced at the table next to the door. On it were all sorts of pamphlets neatly arranged. One on how to register for a driver's permit, some about various regulations around the town, and one a list of which farm vehicles were permitted on which road. Welcome, the clerk said in a cheerful tone. How can I help you? I need a mating contract, Marlot said. Trevor's head snapped up. Of course. What duration? Lifetime. The tiger smiled before bending down. You and the miss are serious. Paper rustled. He stood and handed Marlot a form. I hope it's a joyful occasion and not something you're forced to because you got her pregnant. Marlot placed it on the counter and read it. Trembor swallowed hard and kept his distance. He couldn't decide if he was scared or nervous. You have a pen? Marlot asked when he reached for the bottom of the page. Of course! The tiger pulled one from the breast pocket of his shirt and handed it to him with a flourish. You know, he commented as Marlot filled in the appropriate spaces, it's customary to have your future mate with you while you fill the form. Marlot grunted noncommittally, went over it again, then signed it. He looked to Trembor and offered him the pen. Trembor looked at him, then the form, and back to his wolf. Are you sure? He took an effort to keep his voice steady. Marlot nodded. Trevor's hand shook as he took the pen. He read the form. It was standard contract, no different from when he'd studied them in the basic law class he'd taken. And in the space for penalty if either party broke the contract, Marlot had written none. He'd entered the date, the name of the town, and his information. The only spaces he left blank were those for the other half of the contract, for Trembor to fill. The pen shook as he put it to paper. Wait a minute, the clerk said. The witness can't sign this before your maid has filled her part. Trembor steadied his hand and filled his section. His name, his father's name, his mother. There was only one space for that, so he stuck with his birth mother. Unlike Beau, he wasn't going to make a deal of requiring enough space to put down the name of his three moms. He wrote in his address, then went down to the line where his signature went. He looked at his wolf, trying to see in his face if this was really something he wanted. But Marlot's face was neutral. He wasn't letting any indication of how he felt show. Was this really the right time for this? Shouldn't his wolf wait, give himself time to cool down, think about this rationally? Wasn't it Trembor's job to make sure that this contract was entered into for the right reason? The right reason could go fuck themselves. He'd wanted this within weeks of his first meeting the wolf. He signed the contract and slid it to Marlot, only then realizing his eyes were damp. Marlot flipped the page and pushed it back to the clerk. To the clerk, your turn, he said, handing him the pen. The tiger looked at the contract, confused. What's the meaning of this? You're the witness, Marlot answered. Is this a joke? No. Now, take the pen and sign it. What? I'm not putting my name to this. What are you trying to do? Make a mockery of mating? Marlot reached across the counter before the tiger realized it and grabbed him by the collar. He pulled him close and bared his fangs. The tiger squealed at the sight. I've had a really bad day, so I'm not in the mood to deal with your narrow-mindedness. Your job as town clerk is to officiate and witness the signing of documents, so do your fucking job. He shoved the pen in the man's hand, in the clerk's hand. Absolutely not. Let go of me. I'm a town official. You can't treat me this way. Witness the contract and I'll let you go. I said no. You might as well release me. There's nothing you can do to convince me to put my name on such a farce. Marlot shrugged. Okay, give me your ID. Why do you want that? I'm going to need it to pay your tax. I missed dinner, and since you're not going to do your job, I'm going to make use of you another way. The tiger's eyes went wide. You can't do that. My uncle's on the town council. He'll kill you. Do I look like I care who your family is? Do I look like I care who your family is? He's welcome to try, but by the looks of it, you're not going to be very filling. Trembor hadn't been certain if Wolf was serious, he would have laughed. The tiger fumbled with the pen and then managed to sign on the witness line. Marlot let go of him and readjusted the clerk's collar. Good. Now you're going to scan it and send it to the registry. I can't. The tiger tried to make his voice forceful, but it was too high-pitched. I'm not leaving until you've sent it, and I'm getting hungrier. The clerk looked to Trembor, but he shook his head. He wasn't interfering. He wasn't intervening. His wolf's method might be a bit harsher than he'd like, but he agreed with the sentiment. You don't understand, Dale. I don't care. Marlot cut him off. You send this, I leave. You don't, I eat you. Don't bother telling me how expensive you are. The town might be successful, but you're just a clerk. The tiger gulped audibly. Trembor had trouble believing what he was seeing. Sure, the tiger was in his early 20s, but he acted like he was prey. No predator he'd known would ever give in like that. They'd fight until the end. The tiger scanned the contract, then, with a few keystrokes, announced it was sent. Marlot didn't bother looking at the screen to confirm it before taking the contract back. The tiger was terrified. Marlot smiled at him. Have yourself a good night. Then he turned and left. Trembor gave the clerk his friendliest smile and followed Marlot out. Back in their room, Marlot had checked that the blinds were closed, then sat on the bed. He'd done it. He'd thrown the biggest fuck you to this town he could think of. He had no regrets. This was the best thing he'd ever done, although, he sighed, they're probably going to avoid this as soon as they find out. Can they do that? Trembor asked from the bathroom. He hadn't said a word during the drive back, and Marlot hadn't volunteered any himself. He'd seen in his lion's face how happy he was, and he hadn't wanted to break his mood. They're the council. They can do whatever they want. But it's in the registry. The clerk didn't exactly sign it of his own free will. Contract signed under duress can be contested by one of the parties involved. As the witness, he doesn't qualify as that. He represents an outside agency. Marlot laid back on the bed. Past I wouldn't put it past them to even invent a reason. Trevor didn't respond for a long time. For long enough, Marlot grew concerned. No sound came from the bathroom. Maybe it's for the best if they do, Miss Lyon finally said. Marlot sat up. You don't want to be mated? Panic surged. He couldn't have misunderstood his feeling in the car. The scent had been there. Marlot knew all this Lyon's moods, but he'd been wrapped in his own thought. Could he have projected his desires over the scent? Of course I do, Trembor said, appearing in the doorway holding his brush. You know that. I wouldn't have signed it otherwise. I'm just thinking of my parents. They're going to be livid when they find out we got mated without a ceremony. Marlowe sagged in relief. They can throw us one when we get back. You can be sure of that. My moms are going to go nuts organizing it. Trembor beamed. Why couldn't his own parents have been like Trembor's? Strong arms held him. It's okay, the lion said. I shouldn't be crying, Marlot sobbed. I should be screaming at them for the way they treated me. They're idiots. They can't see how wonderful of a male you are. I know it hurts to be treated like that, but remember, you have another family now, one that loves you exactly as you are. Marlot sniffed and untangled himself out of his lion's arm to blow his nose. Thanks. Trembor put his brush away and climbed onto bed. Marlot tilted a knee at him. His lion pulled him close. You're more important than my mane. Trembor held his tongue, then snuggled against him. This concludes Chapter 17 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be out, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the book as well as the others in the series, they are available on all major e-retailer. If you want to support me directly, that's on my Patreon, where you can also get access to just about everything I've written. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.